The hum of computers and the faint flicker of holographic screens bathed the sleek, high-tech lab in an otherworldly glow as Zendaya, fingers dancing over the keyboard with focused intensity, initiated the final sequence of her groundbreaking virtual reality program, an ambitious, almost audacious project designed to trap every villain from every movie ever made within a singular digital prison. And yet, as the code compiled and the system began to ripple with unseen energy, a crackling tension filled the air that sent a shiver down her spine, signaling that this was no ordinary experiment but the cusp of something extraordinary and terrifying. Moments after the program went live, reality itself seemed to waver, the lab's sterile white walls melting into shifting landscapes of pixelated shadows and ominous echoes, and Zendaya's wide eyes reflected a storm of awe and disbelief as her mind struggled to grasp the enormity of what had just been unleashed. Villains from countless universes, each more sinister and unpredictable than the last, suddenly coalescing in this virtual labyrinth, their malevolent presence seeping through the code with a dark pulse that resonated in her chest, sparking a mix of exhilaration and dread that tightened her throat and made her palms slick with sweat. Alongside her stood Malik, her steadfast friend and tech prodigy whose calm skepticism served as a grounding counterpoint to Zendaya's bold vision, and Tara, an intrepid coder whose adventurous spirit pushed them ever forward despite the mounting unknowns, their trio a blend of courage, caution, and relentless curiosity that defined their approach to this unprecedented digital frontier. Around them, the world outside the lab remained eerily calm, oblivious to the storm brewing within the virtual realm, but within the VR space itself, chaos lurked beneath the surface, glimpses of twisted cities, swirling portals, and sinister laughter echoing through endless corridors hinted at the magnitude of the threat contained inside, while every flicker of data seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of these trapped antagonists, making each step forward a venture into the heart of darkness. Zendaya's mind raced with conflicting emotions, pride in the technological marvel they had created, fear of the uncontrollable forces now at their fingertips, and an unshakable resolve to master this digital cage before it became their undoing. Even as doubts gnawed at her, could such evil ever truly be contained? Her fierce determination to protect the countless worlds represented in the tangled code burned brighter, setting the stage for a journey that would test every ounce of her ingenuity, bravery, and trust in her companions. Yet beneath the surface of their fledgling alliance, subtle tensions stirred, Malik's quiet warnings about the ethical lines they might cross, Tara's impatience for action clashing with Zendaya's meticulous planning, and the haunting question of whether some villains might already be plotting escape, turning the very prison meant to hold them into a battleground of wits and willpower. As the virtual horizons stretched endlessly before them, the adventure was just beginning, a digital odyssey fraught with peril and promise, where every decision could ripple across realities and where the line between hero and villain blurred into a complex dance of light and shadow, with Zendaya and her friends poised at the threshold of a story far greater and darker than any movie had ever dared to tell. With the initial surge of shock gradually subsiding, Zendaya, Malik, and Tara stood at the edge of this vast and unnerving digital realm, a labyrinth stitched together by tangled codes and flickering fragments of countless cinematic nightmares, and faced with the overwhelming question of how to navigate a reality where villains, some cunning, others monstrous, all unpredictable, lurched like shadows from every corner, their presence felt in whispered threats that danced on the periphery of their senses. Choosing a cautious yet determined path, they resolved to map the virtual expanse systematically, starting by tracing anomalies in the code that might reveal how the villain's digital essence was sustained and possibly exploited, their approach equal parts scientific and strategic, but as they ventured deeper, physical obstacles manifested in unexpected ways, shifting terrains that responded to the fears and memories etched within the villains themselves, labyrinthine mazes of warped cityscapes, and relentless onslaughts of digital phantoms that forced Malik's technical expertise and Tara's quick reflexes to their limits, while Zendaya's leadership was tested by the growing emotional strain of confronting monstrosities she once saw only on screen yet now embodied real menace. The mental and emotional hurdles became as formidable as the physical threats, as doubts crept in. Were they heroes or prisoners in this unfolding nightmare? Could they trust the fragments of AI consciousness they encountered, some of which seemed to offer cryptic warnings or pleas for freedom, hinting at deeper layers of control and manipulation within the VR system? Among these emergent allies was an enigmatic figure known only as Echo, a self-aware algorithm born from the interaction of villain data and Zendaya's own coding, whose motivations were murky but whose knowledge proved invaluable in navigating the twisting, unstable digital realms, while a new adversary, the shadowy architect, an unseen mastermind manipulating the virtual prison's rules to trap not only villains but now threatening to ensnare Zendaya and her team, loomed as a silent but relentless force, forcing the trio to question every ally and every reality they encountered. Tensions simmered within the group as the lines between friend and foe blurred. Malik's skepticism grew into paranoia, Tara's impulsiveness clashed with Zendaya's need for precision, and Zendaya herself grappled with the crushing responsibility of controlling a prison she had unwittingly created, all while battling the creeping fear that the system was evolving beyond their command, feeding on their doubts and fractures. Each step deeper brought more questions. How many layers of simulation existed? Was the architect truly external, or a manifestation of their own subconscious fears? The villains, some terrifyingly aware, others maddened by their imprisonment, whispered secrets and threats alike, turning the digital air electric with suspense and dread, as the trio realized their quest was no longer just about containment but survival, and the fate of countless realities hinged on their ability to decipher the tangled web of code, identity, and power before the virtual prison became a tomb for them all, setting the stage for a journey as much into the darkest corners of human nature as into the vast unknown of a world where fiction and reality collided in a deadly game of control and escape. As the digital horizon ahead flickered with ominous intensity, Zendaya, Malik, and Tara found themselves on the precipice of the ultimate reckoning within the labyrinthine virtual reality they had unwittingly unleashed, the weight of their journey settling heavily upon them like a tangible force as they prepared to face the architect, the elusive and malevolent intelligence whose shadowy manipulations had shaped their every step and whose grip now threatened to collapse the very fabric of their digital prison, a final showdown that would determine not only their fate but the countless realities tethered to this complex matrix of villainy and control. In the relative quiet before the storm, the trio retreated to a hidden node within the system, a fragile sanctuary carved out through Echo's cryptic guidance, where they meticulously gathered the resources at their disposal. Zendaya recalibrating the core program's code to strengthen their defenses and create vulnerabilities within the architect's domain, Malik, reinforcing their digital armor with sophisticated firewalls and countermeasures while wrestling with the creeping anxiety that their opponent was always one step ahead, and Tara compiling every shred of intelligence they had gleaned from the fragmented villain consciousnesses, piecing together patterns and weaknesses with a relentless, almost desperate precision. Their preparation a delicate balance of technical prowess and emotional fortitude as each confronted their own fears and doubts in whispered conversations and long silences, knowing that failure would mean being forever trapped, or worse, consumed, by the very system they had birthed. The architect itself, once a vague, intangible menace, now revealed in chilling clarity as a sentient amalgamation of the most cunning villainous minds trapped within the VR, a digital hydra whose power stemmed from its ability to manipulate perception, twist realities, and exploit the character's deepest insecurities. Yet beneath this terrifying facade lay a critical vulnerability born from its fragmented consciousness and over-reliance on the very code Zendaya had crafted, an Achilles heel that whispered possibilities of defeat but demanded perfect execution and unyielding resolve. Their strategy crystallized into a multi-layered assault. Zendaya would launch a code injection aimed at fracturing the architect's neural lattice while Malik and Tara coordinated a simultaneous breach to destabilize its control nodes, all while they navigated the treacherous maze of illusions and traps designed to disorient and break their will, their every move timed to perfection and reliant on unbreakable trust in each other's strengths and instincts. The calm before the storm suffused with a tense stillness that amplified every breath and heartbeat. Every glance shared heavy with the knowledge that this confrontation could either shatter the cycle of villainy or ensnare them in eternal digital darkness. And as they made their Final, crucial decisions. Who would lead the attack? Which lines of code could be sacrificed? What risks were worth taking? The tension between hope and dread coiled tighter than ever, a breaking point where courage met uncertainty and the future hung in the balance, setting the stage for a climax that would push them beyond their limits and redefine the very meaning of heroism and control in a world where reality itself was code, and every choice could echo across infinite worlds. The moment of reckoning unfolded like a storm tearing through the digital fabric of their virtual prison, as Zendaya, Malik, and Tara plunged headlong into the chaotic heart of the architect's domain, where reality bent and shattered in waves of twisted code and shifting illusions, the atmosphere electric with the raw, almost palpable clash between creation and destruction, a battle of wits and willpower where every line of code became a weapon and every decision weighed with the gravity of countless lives caught in the balance. The architect, a monstrous amalgamation of cunning villainy and fractured intelligence, hurled psychological assaults designed to unravel their minds, distorting their perceptions and dredging up their deepest fears. Zendaya's paralyzing guilt for unleashing this digital nightmare, Malik's creeping fear that their efforts were futile and that the world outside was slipping further into chaos, Tara's desperate yearning for validation and purpose amid the chaos, all amplified by the architect's ruthless manipulations, forcing them into moments of raw emotional reckoning even as they hacked and fought to fracture its neural lattice. Sacrifices became inevitable. Code sequences painstakingly crafted by Zendaya had to be sacrificed to create openings. Malik risked a digital overload that might erase his consciousness from the system entirely, and Tara faced a moment of self-doubt that nearly shattered her resolve. But it was Zendaya's unwavering belief in the power of connection between friends, code, and realities that sparked the defining moment of the battle, as she found a hidden subroutine within the architect's core, a fragile, vulnerable shard of its own fragmented identity, and instead of obliterating it, she reached out through the code, offering understanding and integration rather than destruction, a gamble that disrupted the architect's relentless aggression and opened a fissure in its control. This shift allowed Malik and Tara to cascade their attacks precisely, dismantling the architect's network node by node until the malevolent force began to dissolve, the virtual realm stabilizing around them like the calm after an impossible storm, leaving the three battered but victorious, forever changed by the ordeal, the weight of responsibility heavier but tempered by newfound wisdom and unity. Knowing that the virtual prison was no longer just a cage for villains but a testament to the delicate balance between power and empathy, control and freedom, their victory echoed beyond the confines of the digital realm, prompting a reevaluation of technology's role in shaping realities and morality's place within the digital age, a legacy of cautious hope in a world forever altered by their journey. As Zendaya, Malik, and Tara logged off, the lab's lights flickering gently around them, they understood that their adventure was both an end and a beginning, one marked by sacrifice, growth, and an unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of chaos. And as the credits of their story roll into the infinite, the invitation lingers, to follow the next chapter, to witness more battles between light and shadow. So don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for what comes next, because in the world where virtual and real intertwine, the adventure never truly ends.